Welcome to the Thinking the Unthinkable podcast, our latest leadership conversation. Hello, I'm Nik Gowing. We want to really excite and encourage you. Let's be positive on efforts to combat the climate emergency. Let me introduce you to the Clean Growth Fund. Let's hear their story and their achievements. Well, the Clean Growth Fund is a climate venture capital fund worth £101 million, with a new and bigger fund in the process of being created. It empowers clean tech entrepreneurs, particularly small and medium-sized, with the expertise and the capital that they need to overcome the climate crisis with new and inspiring ideas. And the goal is to make money, yes, to be profitable. So let's hear from the founder of the fund and its managing partner, Beverley Gower-Jones. Beverley, a very warm welcome. You're always so remarkably positive when I see you about the prospects for this kind of funding, even with all the political headwinds, especially because of all that President Trump is now unraveling. Why do you feel so positive?
Thanks, Nick. Well, market forces are stronger than politics. Renewables are now the cheapest form of new power generation everywhere. Even with the policy rollbacks, the economic case for wind, solar and batteries is absolutely undeniable. And corporate buyers and utilities are locked into long-term contracts, many of which won't be reversed even with, political headwinds and shifts. Any transition moving from A to B, it never happens in a straight line. And I think it's really the market that gives me that positivity and that encouragement, when I look at just for how far down the cost curve these new renewable energy technologies have come.
Now, there are plenty of skeptics out there still. Has a corner really been turned? If so, where and how?
I absolutely think so. I think when you look at China, you see they've invested over 100 billion, and firms have committed huge amounts of outbound foreign direct investment. You see the state level action in the US is strong, in California, New York, and ironically Texas. And so, regardless of kind of top government policy, those states are moving ahead. The global race won't wait for the US. So in some ways, I actually see that as a massive opportunity for the UK and the EU to be the global leaders of this industrial revolution, creating huge numbers of jobs, vast economic growth, and really making us the leaders in this next century.
Well, that's what your fund is in the business of doing. And you talk of bringing together, and I quote here from your website, problem solvers, risk takers, and change makers. Well, I've been in the room and I've seen what happens when you bring them together. Just describe the kind of energy that's created.
The people are massively passionate and hugely convinced on the energy transition and decarbonisation journey. I think when people collaborate, there's never such a stronger force. And so, again, that gives rise for huge amounts of optimism. People's ingenuity is unstoppable, and and it's not restricted in any way. And I think when people work together over many years and collaborate and get to know each other, we can achieve everything that needs to be achieved. And it's the feeling, the emotion, the energy in the room, which is really truly inspiring.
It is quite remarkable. I've seen it and I've felt it because having the conversations when you've been celebrating some of the things that you've done. And one of the things you're trying to do, which is central, is reshaping industry. What do you mean by reshaping?
I think industry needs to, it's about the workforce, the clean energy workforce is booming. Millions of jobs are being created, and it's also about the economics of industry. So we're looking at changing the way, for example, our buildings are insulated using new business models like salary sacrifice mechanisms. So the same way you buy an EV, be able to buy energy efficiency products for the home, which would really create jobs across the country. And be a fantastic social and economic kind of change. So it's not just about technology leading the way, although technology does lead the way. It's about the social and the economic revolution that goes alongside a complete energy transition. When you look at, either the World War II reconstruction or the first industrial revolution, going back a long, long way, you can see that it was a complete economic and societal transformation. And we're standing at a similar turning point today. So the question isn't whether the transition will happen, but who will lead it, who will resist it, and who will be left behind.
Now, to get a bit more techie about this, the challenge you always say is to abate significant amounts of carbon each year. But what are the struggles facing SMEs, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, that you help to overcome? How do you do it? How do you remove the risk and create confidence, particularly for SMEs?
We have a well established and trialed and proven framework in which we look at the different areas that a business needs to overcome to be successful. And that just doesn't include technology and the development of the technology, but it includes the market development and the route to market. It includes looking at the team. It includes putting the supply chain together, what needs to happen on the regulatory and policy side. The finance, of course, is a critical element to that. And all the things that make up, what you need to be commercially successful. We do an evaluation of where a company is at on all the different aspects of that journey. And then we help them prioritize and fill in the gaps. So with their, collaboratively with the Clean Growth Fund and the consulting company that I created, Carbon Limiting Technologies, we work with those entrepreneurs to accelerate them through that, through that journey, understand what those gaps are, and then put in place the things that they need to quickly overcome them.
Beverley, do you manage to smooth things over? Because being an SME or a startup is tough. And what people need is confidence that their idea is good and also that they're going to survive beyond the first few months. What do you do to ensure, and you've got already 19 big projects which you funded, and there are more in the pipeline. What has been the common factor here?
I think the common factor is building trust. I think those companies know that we've known and understood the energy transition and decarbonisation for over 20 years. And so that expertise and knowledge goes a hugely long way. We understand the marketplace gap that they're trying to fill and the need for that new technology. And we work alongside them to achieve that. So, weekly meetings, hand in hand, kind of working through some of those problems, strategy sessions, workshops. We have portfolio days twice a year where we bring them all together, and so they can build a peer-to-peer network, which is hugely important because then they can talk to each other about the learnings and the problems and get energy and input from others in a similar situation. When you're at the management team of one of these small companies, it can be quite a lonely place to be. So to have people that you've known over 4 or 5 years that you can then talk to about those challenges and come up with solutions or at least sympathy, it really helps on that journey.
Are you sort of handholders and reassurers, almost mentors as well, quite apart from the financial side of it?
I think that the finance is obviously important, but alongside the money, there has to be that hands-on support. And you have to be experienced to be able to gain the trust of those founders and management teams to be able to do that mentoring role. And absolutely, we one of the things we look for when we're investing in teams is, will they be happy to work with us? Because we are very hands-on, and that's a really important element of what we look for.
Now, I mentioned the £101 million, which is well known, it's public, but you've just gone public with the fact that you are raising £150 million for a second fund. Tell me about what you say to people to persuade them to part with their money to invest at a time when there does remain, quite apart from the Trumpian issues, a level of instability and uncertainty about regulation and so many issues here?
I think the things to remember and understand, and the things I talk to people about, is the size of the economic opportunity that the clean tech transformation represents.
Do you face a lot of skeptics, though?
Do I think there are skeptics? I see there are skeptics in every walk of life, Nick, and I don't suppose that is going to change. I think there are many more people that understand the size and the opportunity that that this affords. So I would say that private capital is all in on clean tech, and it's seen as a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. I think the question that people are asking is not whether they should do it, but that how do they do it in a risk-adjusted way. So when I talk to pension funds and institutional investors, I'm talking a lot about how we manage the risk on the journey, how we understand it. Clean tech commercialization is not serendipity; it's a process, and if you know where you're at on the process, you can do key actions to de-risk. As you progress. And that's what we do at the Clean Growth Fund. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot, is that kind of risk-adjusted and risk-managed piece, so that clean tech isn't this high-risk, high-reward thing that people sometimes have in their minds, but that they start to understand if you have 20 years deep sector expertise, as we do in the sector, then you can invest and get those kind of returns.
Oh, and what kind of returns do people want for their money? How quickly?
So the fund is 10 years, and so you need patient capital in this space. The returns we're looking at are IRRs above 20%, and 2.5 times the money multiple return is what we're targeting.
Now, one of the things you emphasize time and time again is what you call the 3 C's, creating the right mix of capital, collaboration, and commitment. How difficult is it still to achieve all of that?
Inevitably, it's not straightforward, but I think we have a number of companies in the portfolio where we have achieved that with huge amounts of success. So Piccolo, which is a marketplace platform for trading what the power sector calls flexibility, which is essentially matching supply and demand, have just launched in New York and are doing famously well. SunSwap, who decarbonise the cold chain of heavy goods vehicles, so the trailer that's chilled to carry pharmaceuticals and food and so on up and down the country, now have a £6 million order book and sold their first units to DFDS. And many others. Clean Food Group are working to replace palm oil. So our desire for palm oil has gone up tens and tens of times. And of course, that deforests the rainforest of Indonesia and so on. And they have a fermentation solution to replace palm oil. And they've now signed another contract with a key commercial customer. And so those key, quick case success examples, I think, are really fantastic ways of showing how we've managed to achieve that.
You've got a lot of bold ideas here, and that's what's so exciting listening to you. And it proves there is really still an extraordinary, radical, innovative approach, and a lot of people out there have big ideas and determined to see them through in ways which you think you can harness. What is your message to those out there who are maybe still sitting on the fence, not quite sure, or they are determined, but they're not quite sure even how to approach a fund like yours?
I think the key message really is that, the genie's out of the bottle, and once the genie's out of the bottle, it's not going back in. And so get on the journey, come and join us, come and talk to us. It's the opportunity to be ahead. It's the opportunity to shape the future, and money markets and technology are all moving in one direction. And, so let's be part of it, work with others, learn from others that have supported Fund One already. And, we're very collaborative. And I think that's key, right, as we all go down this journey.
What do you think the prospects are for this, Beverley? Because 101 million is significant, but of course it's very modest compared to the enormity of what we're facing with carbon emissions and so on. And your next fund of 150 million is bigger than 101 million. But on the other hand, it's still sort of baby steps in many ways. So what does that tell us about still a degree of limitation or skepticism about the way this is moving? Could you see this exploding into something much bigger, much quicker?
It could. I think the thing is that with a funding ladder, all stages of the funding ladder need to be joined up, and you need the right size of fund for the right stage. So we're focused on Series A, and we're focused on UK investments. And so that 150, 200 million fund size, is a right size of fund for what we're looking to do with it. So the tool is right sized for the job, if I could say that. We don't just invest in these companies on our own, we co-invest. And so we need more funds to be able to co-invest alongside, because, that's one of the challenges that we face. And for sure, we need funds, larger funds that do the Series B, C, and D, side of things, and different financial products. So, insurance wrappers and venture debt, debt solutions. No one wants to build a first of a kind demonstrator. And so, yes, this the piece needs to explode. I'm hugely excited about growing the Clean Growth Fund platform across all those areas that so critically need this funding, and capitalizing on the massive opportunity that I see by doing that.
Now, Beverley, we've got about 3 minutes left. So what's the big takeaway? Because I can imagine you've had moments of heartbreak and real distress in your 20-year journey here. But do you feel finally that it's taking off despite all the hassles you've been through and the almost the wars that there have been in the jungle in order to get to this new clearing of opportunity and so on? Do you think we are now at a point where we will look back at this time and say, why weren't we more ambitious? Why weren't we more determined and innovative right across the board?
For definite. And as I look back through history, and I mentioned before, the World War II reconstruction, we've done it before, we can do it again. In 1945, the world lay in ruins, and cities were destroyed, economies were shattered, and the recovery was, going to take generations, but within a few decades, the world had rebuilt, stronger, prosperous, and more connected than ever before. And that happened because of massive investment in innovation, right? That happened because of global cooperation, because of economic growth and job creation, and a shared vision for progress. And that's exactly what we need here. So it's not like we're doing this for the first time. We have the tools, we have the techniques, we have the track record. We just need to get on with it.
Of course, many people considering setting up an SME and so on, final thought here, they have no clue about what happened in the 1950s, 1960s. They can't remember the end of the Second World War, even though we've now got, the kind of Ukraine problem. Do you think actually history is not, even though history is correct, history is not helping you because most people are not conscious of how this really can be done, this transition with great initiative, great determination?
I think the future's built on the past, and history is more than the collective of the individual brains and memories of individual people. It's a kind of a rich fabric that helps us navigate the future. And we can take lessons from the past, even if we weren't there ourselves and we don't and can't remember it. I can see for founders that might seem a bit of an abstract type kind of lesson. I suppose the Apollo mission, and people talk about that quite a lot, is similar, a bit closer to, the 1945. But I suppose the message is that when people really want to do something, everything and anything can happen. There's nothing more powerful than individuals coming together and collectively deciding to go on a journey. And I think that's the message that I leave those founders with. Yes, there are ups and downs. It's a real roller coaster, but stay with it and be resilient, because it's worth it in the end. As I said at the beginning, nothing goes straight from A to B, right? But to B we will get.
Well, you were joining us because actually I admire your encouragement and your determination and your innovation and the fact that you've stuck with it and look at the success you're having. Beverley, thanks so much for joining us. And you can reference every detail that Beverley gave us. A transcript of the podcast is posted in parallel on our website, along with contact details for Beverley at the Clean Growth Fund and also for us at Thinking the Unthinkable. Do please join us again when we have our next conversation about Thinking the Unthinkable. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you'll find this podcast and so many other podcasts as well. So from me, Nik Gowing, until the next time, keep thinking the unthinkable. More than ever, it's both possible and necessary. So from Beverley and me, bye-bye.